Welcome to the Collectors Forum. I am your host, Althea Viafora Kress, a consultant with an office in New York City. It is my pleasure to welcome Wim Delvoye, an extraordinary artist who's visiting us here from Belgium. Welcome, Wim. When I think of your work, I think of high and low. I think of ornament, I think of modernism, but ultimately I think of an avant-garde artist. Could you tell us about specifically the three bodies of work that you're most famous for to date?
The three bodies?
Let's say three bodies.
Yeah.
Will be the Pigs project, the Cloaca.
Cloaca.
We'll start with those.
And what's the third body?
Euterpe.
Aye. So, what do you want to know about the first body?
Well, let's begin with your tattooed pig project.
Yes.
You have a farm, an
yes.
art farm in China.
Yes.
And you raise pigs and you tattoo pigs, sometimes with recognizable images and sometimes not. When this process of working, or how are you thinking about contemporary culture?
It's not so clear to me if the farm itself is an art piece or the end products we have by doing this project. So what I like the most is you just go to the farm and you see the whole situation, the seasons, springtime, summer, autumn. So it's all about the cycle of life, and you bring this cycle of life in art. You start to harvest art products instead of getting them produced. So you have a completely different way of thinking. So you sow little images on pigs who are 3 months old, 4 months old. They're usually between 25 to 30 kilograms. And then 2 years later, you harvest a 250 kilogram pig. So you invested with some tattooers, you invested some money and some labor, some energy into small tattoos, and then you let these tattoos do the work. Nature is then enlarging it.
The pig grows, therefore the tattoos, the shape and the forms and the iconography, be it corporate branding or be it an abstract image, then shifts and changes along with nature. And when you say the pig is harvested, does that mean that the pig is slaughtered?
Yeah.
And then the pig is consumed?
Yeah.
So it's cyclical then. It's really about life. It's about life and growth and decay and the soil and then rebirth.
Yes, correct.
And it's interesting because we live in a time of such abundance around food, mass production of food. And today, I mean, it's almost a statement about class, that the smaller the portion, the further away the original food is, the more valued it is, and the more aware we are when we're sitting at our table that, there were in fact thousands of people involved with this particular product before it gets to our table. So when we're looking at your art pieces, let's say we're seeing a pig's skin that's been tattooed, that's morphed, that's framed, that was in a gallery, that was acquired by a collector or a museum, then how do you see that experience for the art itself in the world?
I don't really, when I see my pigs, I already forgot years ago that you could see them as food as well. So the food connotation, I don't have it so much. Myself, I'm a vegetarian and I don't eat pig meat, pork meat. I don't eat it. So, but the pigs have a capacity of growing really, really fast. And a pig, it's like a shit or something else like this. It does not take part in any intellectual discourse. if you say pig or shit, it's so stupid, so plebeian. So everybody knows what a pig is like, but the animal in itself is kind of associated with something cheap or low or not very noble. So it's something like how you started. You started about high and low. So it's about socially high and socially low. If, for example, in the animal world, the lion is like called the king of the animal world. The pig might be the proletarian, the loser of the animal world.
And it has many connotations, both religiously speaking, but also in fairy tales and in children's stories. Actually, the pig's considered intelligent, or it inspires children to save money, but it's also considered unclean meat. And you chose an extremely complex animal within the kingdom, and of course salt is associated with pork. Now, your work, it really speaks to anthropology and sociology and how our bodies function. I mean, you did a series of work that reproduced elaborate inlaid marble floors, and you reproduce those with deli meat. And it brings again this high-low idea of what I call ornamentation, which is not a conservative point of view. You're dealing with sort of the notions of the grotesque as Robert Storr has defined them, that it's an inventiveness, it's an unbalanced uncertainty, but once you've seen your work, there's no getting away from that image. I equate you also with Goya's work, that you're addressing politics, but through a back door. Like, you're not a modernist, you're something else. And when you're making this work and you're using these materials, but you're bringing your European, perhaps aesthetic to it, what is that experience like for you? How do you come up with the concept to begin with?
I somehow early on decided to stop doing this dichotomy, this taxonomy between high and low, because I couldn't really work out what stands for high, what stands for low, what exactly means. I mean, I couldn't categorize all the things in low and high. It was a dichotomy that I couldn't handle. And then later on, I even gave up wondering if it was art or not. It's really difficult to do something who is not art today. And what I like about the pigs is when you visit a farm, okay, there is a little consensus made in a small elite that a tattooed pig might be art, but when you experience the art piece, you don't experience it as an art piece. You see hundreds of hours of labor, of tattooing labor, of people doing colors and perspective and drawings and symbols and ornaments, and to put this all on this pig. But if when you look at the piece, it is a pig, it's not an art piece. It is so live, and it makes noise, and it has its own character, that it refuses to be handled or judged as an art piece. I mean, there's so much things we can say about these pigs, about them. I mean, not about their tattoos, but about this one is a naughty boy, and this one's really lazy, and he broke his leg. And so there's lots of other things to say about these art pieces that you couldn't, I mean, painters wouldn't talk about their paintings in their studio like I talk about my paintings in my farm.
That's correct. It's more like performative and collaborative, and that your medium and you are on the same level. So the human isn't higher than the lowly pig. The pig, in fact, is equal to what your production is, because they're equally producing, and they're producing at the most basic level, which is the embodiment itself of your work. But tell me about irony. Like, that draws me to, well, isn't that ironic then that humans then become the caretakers of this pig's skin when the pig's life is over, naturally over, yet the pig's skin outlives the human that owns it.
And there's lots of these things going on. For example, we are living near Beijing in this farm, maybe like 50 minutes to an hour from Beijing, so not so far, but it's a very small village. And so by October, November, you have a truck coming and ringing from door to door, going from door to door, asking the people how much coal do you need for this winter. And so you have to more or less calculate if you have children or if you have your grandma living in your house. So each family has to calculate more or less how much charcoal, how much coals you need for the heating for the winter, to overcome the winter. So people are starting to read one another's status in the village of the amount of coal ordered. So the truck comes and they pour these coals in front of your house, and then you have a couple of days to put it away in some more safe place before somebody steals it. And this all happens in the same week. So the neighbors are all checking one another's coal. And then they were all shocked that we had the biggest amount of coal. So the most important people of the village had less coal than our farm, but we only had 1 or 2 people living in the farm. And all the rest of the people were actually pigs. I mean, not real people. So Chinese were kind of a little bit surprised that we were handling our pigs better. They were warmer in winter than the Chinese people. So they were like very, very well treated, like little stars.
Yes, yes. And again, it makes me think back to the notion of art. Art, by definition, in the traditional sense, transforms. But what you were doing was, by the making of art, you were actually transforming the notions of what an economy is and what abundance is. But it's very interesting. How did you feel about that? What do you feel that your responsibilities to your work first and foremost?
You feel less responsible because if you are a painter and let's say you paint something, a heart or a political figure, or you express or you do an image who is maybe, let's say, a swastika or something. So the critic will come to your studio and say, why did you do that? You need to have a good reason. It's ironic, or you're really such a person, you really adore that, or you're just, but with my work, it's also images, like paintings, but it's not, and there's an enormous promiscuity. I am not held responsible for what I tattoo, because traditionally a tattooist wouldn't do anything coming from himself. The customer would tell him, okay, I want a butterfly, or I want a yellow, or I want blue or red. The customer just orders. It's like a hairdresser. A tattoo artist is really like a hairdresser. He just has to have the job done, and then the people are asking the model, the person who's tattooed, so why did you do that? Why are you doing a swastika on your chest? Are you kind of nuts or what? So he needs to have a good reason. I don't have to have a good reason to do something on my pics, because there's somebody else who's held responsible for it. The pics are getting their own persona. They have names and they have their personality. So people are wondering, so why is this pic, I don't know, with these images or this or something, or why does this pic like rock and roll, or why does he like Al Qaeda, or why does he like Jesus Christ, whatever.